Hello, welcome to Michelle Reads Books. So, today we are talking about Volume 2 of the Work in the Glory series, and this one is called Like a Fire is Burning by Gerald N. Lund. So, I will give you the summary and then my opinion at the end. This volume covers the time period between 1830 and 1836. The long-awaited wedding day of Nathan and Lydia arrives, but is instantly threatened when her father, Josiah McBride, brings a law officer to halt the proceedings. Defying his interference, the Steed family rallies to defend Lydia's choice. Because she is of legal age, her father is powerless to stop the union, and Joseph Smith performs the ceremony. 6 weeks later, a newly pregnant Lydia finds comfort in the kindness of Father Steed, while Nathan accepts another offer to work on the Joseph Knight farm. While helping build a small dam for baptisms, Nathan and the Saints face fierce opposition from a local mob that destroys the structure overnight and jeers at the believers. Despite the hostility, Emma Smith and Mother Knight are successfully baptized. The peace is short-lived when a constable arrests Joseph, forcing him and a guide to narrowly outrun an ambush. At the trial, Nathan anxiously watches witnesses testify. Though Joseph is found not guilty, a second mob immediately rearrests him for another trial in a neighboring county. Joseph endures severe abuse before winning a second acquittal. Witnessing this relentless persecution leaves Nathan deeply discouraged, but Joseph comforts him by reminding him of the Savior's similar trials. Meanwhile, Parley P. Pratt and his wife eagerly embrace the restored gospel and are baptized. At a church meeting in Fayette, Nathan and Lydia are briefly reunited before Nathan is promptly called to serve a mission. During this time, Emma shares a spiritual revelation with the women, a profound experience that comforts her after never receiving the opportunity to view the gold plates. In Independence, Missouri, Joshua Steed's marriage is fracturing. Fixated on having a child, he brings in a doctor to examine his wife, Jessica. Overwhelmed, Jessica later fires the physician, triggering a furious argument with Joshua. After tragically losing another baby, the couple clashes over the real issue. Joshua is still secretly in love with Lydia. In a fit of rage, Joshua slaps Jessica for the first time and storms out. Back in Palmyra, a new revelation instructs the Saints to gather in Kirtland, Ohio. Nathan, Lydia, and Melissa feel a strong spiritual pull to obey, though Marianne advises Melissa to wait until Benjamin can be persuaded to sell the farm. In Missouri, Jessica crosses paths with the missionaries, Oliver Cowdery, Peter Whitmer, and Parley Pratt. When Joshua confronts them, they inadvertently reveal Lydia's marriage and pregnancy. The news devastates Joshua, forcing him to accept that Lydia is lost to him forever. Before departing New York, Nathan and Lydia share a tense final meal with the Steeds. Benjamin strongly objects to their winter travels, but Lydia boldly bears her testimony of their divine calling. They leave to join Mother Smith's company on the Erie Canal. Witnessing his family's resolve, Martin Harris successfully convinces Benjamin to sell his farm and join the migration, using the promise of his new grandchild as his ultimate excuse. Mary Ann is ecstatic. The journey west tests the Saints when early winter ice freezes Lake Erie, trapping the company in Buffalo. Demonstrating immense faith, Mother Smith publicly prophesies that the ice will break to allow their boat safe passage. To the awe of Nathan and Lydia, the waters miraculously part, leaving other travelers stranded. Upon arriving in Kirtland, the Steeds enjoy a tearful family reunion and learn of Joshua's whereabouts. The very next day, Lydia gives birth to a baby boy. Nearby, Joseph and Emma mourn the tragic loss of their own twins, but adopt newborn twins from a widower named Murdoch. As missionary work thrives, Joseph performs a miraculous healing on a woman's rheumatic arm. Inspired during his son's infancy blessing, Nathan unexpectedly names the child Joshua rather than Nathan. Meanwhile, a local man named Carl Rogers pursues Melissa. Though she hesitates due to their religious differences, Carl eventually asks Benjamin for her hand and receives the family's blessing. Soon after, Nathan is called to assist the Saints in relocating further west to Missouri, offering a chance to find his estranged brother. In Missouri, a pregnant Jessica faces Joshua's growing resentment and mounting gambling debts. Desperate for money, Joshua forces Jessica to help him cheat during a high-stakes poker game. However, after overhearing Joshua insult her appearance to the other players, a heartbroken Jessica abandons her post. Missing her secret signals, Joshua loses everything. Furious, Joshua confronts Jessica, repeatedly striking her and slamming her against a building. As gunshots erupt in the chaos, Joshua flees town to avoid domestic abuse and assault charges. Jessica runs west into the night until she encounters Oliver Cowdery, who places her with the Lewis family among the Colesville Saints. Nathan uncovers his brother's abusive actions and helps Jessica prepare for baptism. Nathan gives her a comforting priesthood blessing, promising that her baby girl will be born healthy and full term, and that she will find divine guidance through her marital struggles. Joshua's return to town forces a confrontation with Jessica. While she accepts his apology for his past actions, she adamantly refuses to renounce her newfound faith or live with him as husband and wife, choosing instead to stay with the supportive Lewis family. After returning to Kirtland, Nathan leaves for another mission. During his absence, Lydia gives birth to their second child, Emily, and struggles with postpartum depression. Soon after, Joseph Smith receives a long-awaited milestone by finally committing Father Benjamin Steed to baptism. In Missouri, Jessica remains unyielding to her father's pleas to return to Joshua. Instead, Pa Roundy delivers divorce papers from Joshua and reveals he is dating someone new. As the church grows in Missouri, local men, including Joshua, perceive the Saints as a direct threat. Eager to take up arms against the religion he blames for stealing his wife and fracturing his family, Joshua joins a mob that burns the Mormon print shop in Independence. During the chaos, teenagers Mary Elizabeth Rollins and her sister risk their lives to rescue papers that will later become crucial sections of the Doctrine and Covenants. The violence escalates when the mob tars and feathers Bishop Partridge, who endures the assault with Christ-like patience. The display strikes shame into the hearts of the onlookers, including Joshua. Amidst the displacement, Jessica gives birth to a daughter named Rachel. Forced from their homes, the Saints huddle in terror by the river. When a skirmish erupts, Jessica witnesses Philo Dibble's miraculous healing from a gunshot wound following a priesthood blessing by Newell Knight. Fleeing barefoot through the frozen grass, Jessica leaves bloody footprints behind as she carries baby Rachel to safety. Reaching a river 25 miles away, the destitute group is stranded until Mary Elizabeth Rollins miraculously catches river fish containing the exact money needed for the ferry crossing. In Kirtland, financial debts strain the relationship between the Saints and Joseph Smith, but hearts soften when news arrives of the tragedies in the West. Joseph organizes Zion's camp to assist the displaced members. Meanwhile, a heartbroken Lydia gives birth to a stillborn baby. Seeking solace while Nathan marches west with future church leaders like Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball, Lydia takes her 2 children east to visit her parents in Palmyra. On May 5, 1834, the Kirtland Saints gather to see Zion's camp off. Nathan documents the journey in his journal, recording a mixture of miracles, grumblings, and hardships. When Zion's camp arrives in Missouri, a hostile mob lies in wait. However, the Lord sends a severe storm that forces the Saints into an abandoned Baptist church for shelter, while Joshua and a shivering mob call off the attack to avoid being struck by lightning. Well, with the march concluded, Nathan seeks out Joshua before returning east. He finds his brother, but the meeting turns hostile. Joshua's anti-Mormon friends tie Nathan to a chair. Joshua vents his deep-seated resentment toward Joseph Smith for brainwashing Jessica and ruining his life. Exhausted by his brother's bitterness, Nathan retorts, "I'm going to tell Ma not to pray for you anymore." Angry, Joshua abandons Nathan to the mob. Nathan escapes and returns to Kirtland with Jessica and baby Rachel, whom the Steed family immediately embraces. Advising Nathan to rescue his own marriage, Melissa encourages him to join Lydia in Palmyra. There, Nathan finds a miserable reality. Lydia has reestablished ties with her parents by working at their store, attending their church, and hiding her Mormon faith. Nathan clashes with his father-in-law and loathes the store work. The turning point arrives when Nathan reveals the physical scars from the whipping he received in Missouri by order of his own brother. Horrified and shocked by the reality of the persecution, Lydia's devotion to the church is reawakened, and she chooses to return home with her husband. By February 1836, the Kirtland Saints number in the thousands, and the Steed grandchildren are thriving. Jessica works as a bookkeeper at Carl's livery stable while raising 4-year-old Rachel. Lydia teaches at the common school, raising young Joshua, Emily, and a newborn baby boy named Nathan, while Melissa welcomes another son, David. During this time of peace, Lydia receives a patriarchal blessing, promising that she will be a mother in Zion and that her future children will call her blessed. The spiritual climax arrives in March 1836 with the dedication of the Kirtland Temple. While 15-year-old Matthew stays home to babysit and Melissa remains behind, the rest of the adults attend the sacred service. Inside the beautiful edifice, 18-year-old Rebecca gasps at the stunning workmanship. As the heavens open, Benjamin witnesses the spiritual outpourings, but grows deeply discouraged when he does not personally experience gifts like tongues or visions. He berates himself for his past sins and his early opposition to Joseph Smith, believing the Lord is withholding blessings from him. Silencing his doubts, a comforting voice speaks directly to Benjamin's mind. That evening, during a dedicatory meeting reserved exclusively for the priesthood, Benjamin's faith is fully vindicated as he speaks in tongues while the temple fills with angels. So, what do I think of this one? I think that this one's a bit intense, I'm not going to lie. I think that the domestic violence from Joshua is really difficult to swallow, and have him still be even a little bit sympathetic. I feel like he's supposed to be a bit sympathetic. Like, you're supposed to think, oh, he's making bad choices, but he's still fundamentally a decent person. Honestly, I just think he's a bad person. And I think that that goes a little bit too far if that was the goal. Once again, Nathan is kind of held up as this like good, like ideal to work towards. But at the same time, I know they're trying to give him some flaws, and his flaws being that he's too willing to follow what the brethren ask. Like, if he's asked to do something, he'll just jump up and do it, and he doesn't really pay enough attention to his wife and ask for a break when he needs it. But dude, that's like a saint or a martyr kind of a flaw. You know, like, he's still too perfect in my opinion. If he had a couple of other flaws, I think that it would be easier to deal with. I don't know. It's just one of those, like, seriously. And I feel like Lydia, being a fundamentally, like, opinionated person, like, she's almost, like, she doesn't go in the same direction. And I feel like showing that she does naturally is not true to her character. So once again, the characterization I don't feel is very good. It also frustrates me that Jessica doesn't seem to have much of a personality. And that has always bothered me. Like she just doesn't. She's very passive. And I don't love it. And I know that she eventually leaves him and refuses to come back, but like, I think anybody would after they were beaten half to death while pregnant in the middle of the flippin' night. You had to like flee from your own husband. Like, I think most people would say, that's it. I can't do this. So I don't think that that's a personality trait of having endured hardship, you know? I don't know. Like, I just don't feel like she has a very rounded out character. And that does bother me. And it bothers me through the rest of the books as well. I feel like Jessica could definitely have had more of a fleshing out of like her personality. Once again, I understand why they do it this way, but it's a bit frustrating. Also, like, the tragedies are gotten over so quickly. I kind of don't like that either, where Lydia is heartbroken when she has a stillborn baby. Of course she is. But they didn't even name the baby. Like, the baby had no name. And I hate that they, like, are just like, oh no, it's not that important. Like, historically, you look at historical records, they often didn't write down the name of the stillborn baby. But I'm sure the parents had some sort of name that they referred to that child as. And so I feel like that's a bit dismissive of the way people feel when they go through difficult times. So, and I see that they're trying, like, the author is trying to show empathy for it, but it falls flat. Like, half the time it doesn't, that's not really how people would react. So, you know, and it's supposed to end on a happy note with the dedication of the Kirtland Temple, but then they mention multiple other things that aren't going well. And so there's a kind of a big shadow over it. I do like like the realism of like the church history stuff. And a lot kind of happened during that time with Zion's Camp. And of course, they had to send one of their fictional characters on Zion's Camp itself, and it had to be Nathan. But the thing is, it could have just as easily been Benjamin. But what's more is that if you really think about it, if this family had existed in real life, one of them would have been like some sort of major calling. Like, for example, Quorum of the 12 or presiding bishop or something along those lines. They would have been, because they're too involved in the church and the history of the church itself. So that's just my opinion. Like, I think that it's not very well thought out. That's all. Once again, issues with characterization. The writing style, I'll still give you a C. And the church history, this one I will give you a B+. There were a couple of things that were missed about the starting of Kirtland and in Missouri, and I just feel like they're glossed over or slightly even sugar-coated. Like, not all of church history is pretty. Yeah, and I'm not just talking about the mob violence. I'm talking about within the church. And a lot of people really don't like talking about it, and so I get why he doesn't like talking about it, but you're writing a historical novel. You can't skip over it just because it makes you uncomfortable. I'm just saying. So that's my opinion on the whole book as a whole. This book took me just under 14 hours to read. Anyway, leave your comments below and happy reading.